Craig, it was just 6 minutes of madness, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that sort of madness, I think, exemplifies their season. Yes, they are out of the title race. There are others who maybe not be, but they are. Their big fight now, Dan, is for the top four. I mean, you've got a couple of teams that could go within a point of them with a game in hand or above them. You've got Everton, who are 3 points behind them with I think, 3 games in hand. So they've got a real bun fight for the Champions League places next year. The injuries have taken their toll. They were way too open. They controlled the game for most parts, and they played some nice stuff again and scored a wonderful goal. But they've been so open at the back, and Vardy had a couple of opportunities in the first half, and when the opportunities came along in the second half, and of course another calamity at the back, I don't think Klopp could believe what he was saying on the sidelines. But that's the reality of it. That's where they are, having to keep playing players out of possession and bring youngsters in. And as I say, after a fantastic couple of years, their fight now is for that top four.
Frank, how do you explain what happened in that second half? Once Salah scored, brilliant assist from Firmino, you thought, no, this is good for Liverpool, they should go on to win this game. And then they just capitulated.
Well, it's football, we would say, but I wonder if Van Dijk would have been at the central of the defense, it would have been the same story. And it's maybe the conclusion of what happened the whole season long for Liverpool, that they lost too many main players to make sure that they could compete with the others. Nothing to do with Kabak. I think Kabak did the job, but Alisson, who has been absolutely perfect since his signed for Liverpool, had 2 dreadful games and cost kind of 6 points to Liverpool, and 6 very important points. It can happen in football where sometimes you don't know what's going on. Even if you have very experienced players, and the case of Anderson, Van Aaldum, and some others, could have been enough to win a game away from home, a game they dominated, but in 6 minutes they lost their mind, and they lost the game so stupidly, I would say, that there is nothing else to say but, well, let's see next season, because there is nothing much to expect from Liverpool until the end of the season, I think.
As Frank mentioned there, Jurgen, another mistake from Alisson, of course, after those 2 big mistakes in the Manchester City match as well. From a coach's perspective, how do you deal with that?
Well, I'm sure that Jurgen Klopp, kind of sits down, has maybe a cup of coffee with him, or maybe even a beer, and talks through those mistakes. And they are just normal. He's a human being. There will be moments where you make mistakes, and obviously it costs them now. It costs them a lot, because obviously Manchester City is kind of just flying away. They're on their way to their title, and nobody can stop them. And Liverpool is going through some difficult moments, but it's also understandable. As Frank said, it all started with Van Dijk's injury, and then other injuries kind of got added on, and they, for 3 years, they played, the most amazing football on the planet. They were flying. I always call him, Jurgen Klopp, kind of the 200 miles per hour coach. and it was so enjoyable, or it's still enjoyable to watch them. But it's normal that there comes now a period of time where things don't work out. They're not going to win the championship, for sure not. But they still have to get into the Champions League. I mean, you've got to give Leicester a huge compliment for the season that they play so far. But when things like that happen, individual mistakes happen, and especially a goalkeeper, you just need to be with him. You got to give him all the support in the world, and have a talk with him, and make sure that he kind of refocuses and puts it out of his mind, because it obviously the next game is coming in a few days again.
Dan, go on, Craig.
Dan, I was going to say I don't think people realise, honestly, and there will be some idiots out there who will say, "Well, Jurgen Klopp, yeah, he's done now," and all this sort of garbage. Look, I can't tell you how difficult it is when you're playing at that elite level. If you take your best centre-half, but not just your best centre-half, one of the best centre-halves in world football out, and then you take the 2 guys that are going to play alongside him out, then you've got to take the player of the year last year and Jordan Henderson and play him at centre-back along with Fabinho at times. So that takes the energy out in the midfield. I mean, a lot of guys scorned at the likes of Jordan Henderson winning Player of the Year, but you've got to have the right balance in the middle of the park and in your team. And his energy and drive in there would be a super balance for somebody like Thiago. Now, there's been some out there saying, well, Thiago, he slows the game down and he does. But he has a certain skill set and he needs others beside him with a different skill set. And at the moment, they're having to take that balance and put it in different positions. And when you take those centre-halves out, as Franco know, really good experienced centre-halves communicate with goalkeepers and they communicate with fullbacks. It is no surprise that Alisson is having a dip in form. It is no surprise, taking the centre-halves out of the equation, that Alexander-Arnold and Robertson have had a dip in form. The whole thing just snowballs. As Jurgen said, it's been one after the other. And I think for Liverpool, yeah, the fight is for the top four, but it's a reset for them at the end of the season. Get all these guys back fit again and go again. I don't doubt for 1 second they will go again, but you cannot get through a season and be as consistent as they have been by not only taking the players out of the team, but shuffling almost everybody else around to try and fill those holes. It is no surprise they're losing the games that they're losing.
You've all mentioned now top four is their priority. Frank, how difficult is that as kind of the mentality of players that have been chasing Champions League titles, league titles, to then kind of refocus on finishing top four, considering how much of a free fall they're in at the moment?
Well, it's part of our game, of our life, and you have to have the humility to accept the fact that you can't reach the top, but you will have to fight hard because you are an employee, and you will have to give everything for the last game that you have to play to get something out of it. And you have to keep the determination, you have to keep the motivation to keep on fighting, because it's nice to be in the Champions League next season. And it's a goal. It's a very important goal financially for the club, for the players as well, to be still on the top championship in Europe, let's say, with the Champions League. So they can't let it go. I mean, it's part of our job to accept the fact that sometimes it doesn't go well. And for Liverpool, everything went well, very well for the past 2 years. It was like, well, very lucky, very fortunate, whatever, or whatever you want to say and the adjective you want to put. But now they're going through a bad time. They have to accept the fact that they have to go for it. They have to be warriors and change the faith. And maybe at some point, it will turn up and for a better thing. I'm sure it's going to go back to a better thing.
Craig, as well as conceding the title, we heard Klopp after the game complaining about VAR for the first goal, where it looked like it was offside, very tight. Initially, it was given off. VAR took a look, and in the end, it was proven that there was no offside in there at all. His problem was that it was subjective as to when the ball was kicked and when the lines were drawn.
Well, we're talking about milliseconds, aren't
we?
So I can't argue with or against that. The referees at Stockley Park, whether we like it or not, on these decisions have this technology that gives them better angles and better lines than we have. And sometimes we see sometimes they're not always clear on the TV. But yeah, we're probably talking milliseconds between the ball leaving the foot or about to leave the foot and where Firmino's I think back foot was. So yeah, I don't know. They've made the decision. I think it was clear in their eyes. They've been quite consistent, particularly with the upper arm. And I think at the end of the day, as Frank said, Liverpool just have to brush themselves down now and do what they can between now and the end of the season. They've got players to come back from bad injuries. They've got players who are not signing contracts like Wijnaldum. They've got players who have had their head turned like Mo Salah with rumours of going to Spain. So it's been a difficult season for them. But sometimes with these seasons, you get through to the end of it and you regroup, and the only thing you can do is to go again.
Meanwhile, so Leicester in second, Craig. Are they the title rivals, I know, quote unquote, for Manchester City at the moment?
No, I don't think so. I still think it's probably going to be Man United, depending on what happens tomorrow. I expect them to win, but they'll have to go out and get the job done. But it's looking like, I suppose in terms of squad strength, you would have to say it's Manchester United. But in saying that, with the injuries they've had, Vardy was back and Ndidi was back. Those players have been missing, and they're probably two of their best players. On top of that, they lost James Justin, who, as you know, I'm a huge fan of, and I think he had potential to be going to the Euros. He's out for the season. So they're kind of down to the bare bones in terms of what they can put together as a squad. But with the players that I mentioned and the way they play, sitting in and hitting on the counter with the likes of Maddison and Vardy and Harvey Barnes and others, they're going to give themselves at least a chance. But let's be honest, it's going to take City to come back to the field rather than the field catching Man City.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.